looking at the Coronado Bridge. I took that picture a few months ago from a cruise boat. Our very special guest today, wonderful guy, executive, coach and leader, trainer. Without any further ado, Ron Cooper, welcome.
It's great to be back with you. Your viewers will see that I have the names of Ron and Marty Cooper on the screen. It's just me for the moment, but Marty is my consummate business partner and marriage partner, and as of this recording, 57 years of being married. But Ed, I thank you. I'm not seeking applause for that necessarily, but it's just point out a fact. But Ed, I want to revisit a topic we have discussed in the past, but I think it's always good to revisit it, knowing that there may be different viewers, listeners now than in the past. But I want to discuss what I call the 3 R's, which are invisible inhibitors into some people's lives. It can definitely be sources of a toxic culture. But I'll tell you, Ed, I'm not a Facebook junkie, but I do periodically leaf through Facebook just real quick, just to kind of get an idea of what's there. But hey, Ken, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Nice to see you. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Welcome, Ken Lloyd.
Thank you, Ed.
Now, Ron is just introducing the topic about social media. Some of it, place for hate, and how disgusting that is. And that's the beginning.
And Ken, you are well versed in this. You're an expert. But I will tell you that what I was saying just a moment ago. I am not a Facebook junkie, if that could be an appropriate term. In that I don't spend very much time at all on Facebook. I am there. I just leaf through it very quickly, just to get a general idea of the tenor of some of the comments being made. And I just get a very general sense of what, quote, society is saying. I will tell you, I am dismayed at comments made that, and I have asked the question somewhat generically before, but who benefits by making a statement about a person that you likely, the extremely low probability you'll ever meet? But it seems to me some people make comments on Facebook, and it's quite honestly, it's very denigrating. They're demeaning someone's character and so forth. And philosophically, there's a wide difference between. But my question to that person is somewhat rhetorically, just because of this broadcast, but I would like to ask anyone, what benefit does a person get? What benefit maybe do you get from making a disparaging comment about someone that, in my opinion, there's a very low probability you will ever meet? You just feel comfortable, it seems from my perspective, you're satisfying yourself to make a disparaging, maybe character denigrating comment about this person. You've done it, you've posted, you're out and away, and I guess in the end result, maybe you feel better because of that. But I'm going to show some slides that I have that may be beneficial, maybe not, but just very quickly. First off, let me share, and then what I want to share will come up. But I'm very interested in a dialogue with anyone who would like to comment about the topic, because I welcome the dialogue. And we don't necessarily have to agree on this topic at all, but I'm very interested in what others think about the 3 R's that I call invisible disruptors. And Ken and Ed, can you each see the slides?
Yes.
I see the first one is very clear and quite interesting.
And so I call them invisible disruptors because, and we have discussed this topic several times. I don't think we can discuss it too many times of having a psychologically safe environment at home, at work, wherever we are. But these three R's can be invisible disruptors. And what I'm referring to are these three R's right here: the resentment, resistance, and revenge. And some people resent somebody else because of, and it could be any number of maybe thousands of reasons. I'm just giving one representative potential reason. You offended me with whatever you said. It could be the words, it could be the tone, whatever it may be. And of course, anti-Semitic statements could be another type thing. That just seems to be so prevalent right now. But there's some people who are very resentful because of something. And the person could be resentful because of a statement made, that we don't share a good relationship, something of that nature. And I'm very interested in, Ken, yours and Ed's thoughts on this, because I know that you can be very representative of other people. But many times, it's almost a guaranteed, if we do not have a psychologically safe environment, I am not going to feel comfortable to confront you. And I know that I'm going to discuss confront in a moment, but I would not feel comfortable confronting you about a statement you made that you may not have meant it to be what I interpreted it to be. But I could, if I'm not comfortable, particularly if maybe I have a personality where I am a very, very reserved person, I may have misinterpreted something one of you said, and I interpreted it as being resentful, and you didn't mean it that way at all, but I don't feel comfortable at all asking you about it. But I do know from many times resentment starts from that type thing. And then some people feel that in many cases the resentment becomes resistance and then ultimately graduates to revenge. And the revenge may not be anything more than being a keyboard warrior to make comments about. But Ed, Ken, if you have any thoughts, let me just discuss resentment, whatever you have seen from your perspective. And have you been involved with people who have been resentful, but have been reluctant to even discuss it?
Ken?
That's a very, very good question. It kind of hits both ways. Yeah, sometimes it depends on the context in which someone's resentful. For example, they're in an organization, they resent what a manager may have said. What do I do about that? I mean, I'm very uncomfortable with it. It's not psychologically safe. At the same time, do I want to get into this whole confrontation thing with a manager? My personal opinion is if someone says something that you resent, you shouldn't just internalize it because it is hurting you psychologically and physically. At the same time, where do you go? That would depend on the organization. Can you approach that manager and say, your comment, just as you put here, Ron, your comment, I was really offended by that comment. Can we talk about it? Or do you need to go and get other help from a different manager or even from HR? On the other side, I think we've all been through this where you resent what someone says to you. I had a horribly anti-Semitic comment lodged at me when I was teaching a class. It was unbelievable and I would never repeat it. But the student had really no idea of the gravity of his comment. And I was in a teaching role. It's very easy for me to say to him, I want you to think about that kind of comment that you just made and the kind of impact that it had. So, you don't really want to sit with it. And yet, unfortunately, there are plenty of people out there sitting and resenting And yeah, they'll then show some resistance and revenge, and ultimately they'll do what they can to get out of that situation. It's hurting them, and ideally and hopefully they're able to move away from it if they're unable to correct it.
Ken, I'm very interested in pursuing what you just said in the context that I perceive you to be a reserved kind of person. Would you define yourself as that type person?
Yeah, I don't go crazy too much, and I don't immediately, if someone says something, jump all over it. I tend more to think about it and respond. At least I try to. We all can be pushed sometimes and get annoyed where uh, things can push you quickly to an area that's a little bit more upset, to say the least. But it takes typically a while. And I sense the same with you, but I would think that, all of your years as a pilot, I think a jet pilot has to be that way. Can't react quickly, impulsively, unless it's a bona fide emergency. But if someone says something that does something to you, or even in flight, you don't just react emotionally and jump all over it, unless, God forbid, it's an emergency situation.
No, you're right about that, Ken. And the reason I'm asking you this is the student who made a very offensive anti-Semitic statement to or about you. Did you feel comfortable right then confronting that student, or did you have to really gather yourself together to select the right time, right place, and then maybe right there in class wouldn't have been the appropriate time to confront?
Yeah, that's another good question. He did it at the end of class when I was just talking with a few students, and out it came. And I said it immediately, not in an enraged state, not in a loud voice or anything, but just very calm, but very strict and severe and not fooling around. Because I like humor and I like fun and keeping things light. This was not in that arena. So there were a couple of other students that saw it, and I figured, too bad, I'm going to say it. Let them see more about how this kind of a comment will strike. I didn't know if they agreed with it or disagreed. I sensed that they agreed, but he thought that he was saying something funny and clever, and it was so far off base that it was unbelievable. Yeah, I said it on the spot. That was one of those where I can't wait with this. I didn't want to say, I want to talk to you afterwards. I was not able to do that, but I didn't come out and yell at him. I just said to him, that kind of comment, you really should really think about before you verbalize it, and think about what's causing you to get to that point. It was tried to make it, if you will, a bit of a learning experience for him as well. I don't really know if or what he learned, because one comment from someone is not going to change a person's values and deep-seated beliefs, but at least to let him know not to go out spewing that hate randomly out in society.
Ken, I think what you just said is very, very important. You had I'm going to say, the emotional presence to be able to assess what the student said, and you thought at that moment this could be a teachable moment. And let me ask you, Ken, did you end up resenting that student for what they said, or did you sense it was a teachable moment and it was just the right time, the right place, the right environment to help help the student without being resenting that student personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I did not and would not carry that forward. If anything, rather than resentment, I felt sorry for the student. What has he come through? Who's been teaching him? Where did this come from? And to me, that statement reflected a lot of very questionable values. And I felt badly for him that this is how he's going to go through life. At the very least, I did want to make this a moment where maybe he would stop and think, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I thinking about? No, I didn't resent him, and I did not carry it forward. And I just hoped it got through to him, which I think it did, because you can tell when you say something that strikes home. And for him, it was a giant oops. But beyond that, then it went, well, you could see him, it hit him. I think it hit him where he had to stop and think about that horribly offensive thing that he said, not for him to learn to pick a better situation to say it, but rather, what is this belief? Where is it coming from? And is it really right? And I hope that it had that kind of impact, but no, didn't hold it against him. I didn't forget it, but I did not show any resentment toward him.
And Ken, I think what you just said is very, very important to our viewers and listeners, that you had the presence about you to discuss this, confront the person in a meaningful way, teachable moment. I'm going to believe you spoke with a very confident resolve. And obviously, you cannot make a person think a certain way, but I'm going to believe you left that student knowing that you are going to confront, you do have the resolve to address this, and I applaud you for that. Ed, I'm curious, have you had any situation, anything similar to Ken, not necessarily anti-Semitic, but where you have corrected a student, not necessarily a student, a person, and you felt that this is a good teachable moment?
Yeah, in life.
Yes, in life or anywhere.
So I've been around a long time, so there's a lot that a lot of water over the old bridge. But uh, before I get to that, Ken, was that anti-Semitic statement aimed at you or just in general and him not knowing of your background?
Yeah, I think it was a general statement. I think had he known more about me, he wouldn't have said it to me. But out it came. But no, I don't think he was trying to attack me. I think he was just trying to talk about himself, and out it came. And I think if he knew more of my background, he would not have said it. But in that sense, I'm glad he did, because at some point he needed to hear that this is way out of line. But not just that, take a look at yourself. What's going on that's making you think that way? Because you are so misinformed and so off the track that maybe we could help get you back. So in that sense, it was good that he did it with me, because no, it was not directed at me. He didn't know. I'm sure of that.
So this was a student within a student teacher moment.
Yes.
And so I I would think, before I get into my thing, Ken, I would think that if he knew the facts, uh, he would be aghast, putting himself in that dangerous position of getting thrown out, and if not, a big F.
Yeah, I think aghast, I'm not exactly sure that's the word, but it shocked him. And in that sense, because I was in a teaching role in that class, I'm hoping that it made it even more of a teaching moment for him. I mean, imagine going up to a professor in a class
Yeah.
and saying an extremely offensive comment. And I did not hold it against him. I did not, as the class went on, he did not drop out. And I was not going to throw him out of class. I had given him the message, and hopefully he never forgot it. I don't think he ever would forget that that step that he took. And maybe there's a lasting impact in causing him to certainly rethink his views, his values, and definitely his behavior.
So my last name was given to me, and I had the opportunity to change it to as a protective device years past, years ago. And I chose no, this is it. So I'm walking around with a target on my back, not only here, but when I do meetings, conferences, when I send a letter, or do a like or whatever comment on LinkedIn, and I don't hide. I'm way beyond that. In years past, going back a long time ago, um, some people, it was in college, came right up to my face and said I wasn't welcome in their group. Now, at that time, I was editor of the college paper. I was on the dean's list. I had run for class president and lost, but not by much. And I was president of, or head of the Hillel Club on campus, which is for Jewish students, just like the Newman Club would be for people who were Catholic, and I forget what the Presbyterian one was, but in our Bible class in that college, which is a small New England college, um, in the Bible class, I stood out because of my name. And I, just a quick personal information thing here. Members of my family, a large family, not the immediate family, but cousins and whatever, they wanted me for years and years to learn how to be a rabbi. Okay. And I thought about it for a while and went to years of religious school, but I decided against that. They were upset. But I knew a lot about uh, anti-Semitism and from study and as well as talk, family talk. But I never really had that attack uh, until that college experience. And so the the guys that wanted me to leave the party because they didn't want someone like me in their group, I stood up to them and uh, talked about the early beginnings of what I had learned about Jesus and the it's all biblical talk, so who knows whether it really happened, but the antagonistic atmosphere at the time from the elders, who were probably ultra conservative Jewish people, uh, didn't want a troublemaker. And that was the foundation of that split. Oversimplification for sure. So I relayed that information to the offender in that social situation on campus. And from that day forward, that never ever happened again. Now, to this day in business, I know that I am not invited. I did not receive an invitation to this or that, or that although I had produced live meetings for years and years, more than 300 live meetings across 30 years until COVID crashed into that business and therefore started this global meeting room online in 2020. I never really had a face-to-face conversation in a business setting, but I knew that I was not being invited into clubs. And I hated that. So I always tried to be um, as Ivy League as I could be. First of all, I liked the fashion and the look and the button down and the whatever. And it was a natural for me. It wasn't a problem. And So I wasn't standing out like I was a skeleton or something, you know, and I kept on my ways, just doing my thing. And I always had the power of the pen. I knew how to write. I knew how to communicate, and I did. But I never really called anybody out in print or on the college radio station, which I also ran. But it, so I became the class champion last year at their request. And I graduated college in 68, give you an idea how long ago. And I'm doing my work, doing that as free. As a matter of fact, I just wrote an article that's going to be published in their newspaper. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is me and a story about me that the college published a couple of months ago for their worldwide audience, you know, students, graduates, faculty, admin. That's my way of dealing with that. I know it's a long-winded answer here, but so yeah. Now, what's going on now on campus and seemingly across social media? I have not been to date, maybe because this is public and it's being recorded now. Maybe this will generate, I don't know. But I have to tell you that I'm in no rush to travel. I'm in no rush to, you know, specifically leave the country and even travel within the U.S. on a plane, mass travel. I'm not afraid. I just hate what's going on, and I just don't. At my age, I don't want to be a target. I just step aside. I'm very happy in San Diego and Palm Desert and Phoenix, where I'm known and appreciated by a lot of different people. So that's a long-winded story.
Ed, I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate everything you just said. I would hope that our listeners, viewers would totally comprehend everything you said, that
Thank you.
many of us have been through and maybe are going through different experiences in life. And we, I think, need to be aware of these kind of things, and that everything you said, both Ken and Ed, ties very well with everything we're discussing here. That when things happen, when we become insensitive to others we don't care about, and that does happen at times, everything I just said, that we can make statements that in some cases we're not aware of. In other cases, yep, I am aware of and I don't care. My hope is we will be able to have the fortitude to confront in a meaningful way, not in a revengeful way, but confront others. And Ed, as I think you very eloquently said, there are times we just need to be appropriately aware of various environments, cultures, and so forth. And quite honestly, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not paranoid at all, but I do want to be in a position in a restaurant, in a theater, the conference, where I can be aware of the total surroundings and knowing that anything could happen because people have feelings and so forth. But what I'm emphasizing here is some of these three R's, any one of these three R's, can be invisible disruptors. There are some people who will not confront, but there are others who will confront in various ways the fact that they are disrupting, the fact that they are denigrating another person becomes totally irrelevant to some people. I am not under the delusion that I can immediately through this means right here or through other means change people who refuse to be changed. I'm not under in that kind of delusion, but I do want to do what I can to be an inspiration to those that to make you aware that these three R's can exist. There are sometimes the revenge or retribution gets to the point where I'm going to do it beyond words. I may even, and we've had various national events, that I'll do it at the end of a knife. I'll do it at the end of a gun, something like that. I would hope we don't get to that point, but I feel that I want to do what I can to inspire people to help avoid some of these R's, the three R's that can be invisible, that we can right here through awareness be aware that these kinds of things can happen within an organization, within a person. I would hope that through awareness, we can be confident enough in ourselves to select the right tone of voice, the right time, the right location to confront the different situations, maybe people, whatever it is. But I think what it is, and each one of you have demonstrated, for me personally, the attribute of we care. I care enough that I do want to address this. And I have enough confidence in myself that I can. And if we don't at this point have the confidence that I can address these things, I would hope that we would surround ourselves with enough people who care enough for each other to where we can help each other confront in a meaningful way, because I believe in you, we believe in each other, and we do have a psychologically safe space where we can bring this all about. But Ken and Ed, that's the kind of the thing, that's the kind of environment. I want to make people aware that we do have these things happening around us. We do. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, we do have some keyboard warriors who feel that, man, I want to seek revenge. And the fact that I hurt you, the fact that I denigrated your character or something like that is irrelevant to me. I just need to win. And it's more important in some cases to be right rather than have a relationship. And again, I'm not supposing that one session such as this is going to permanently change any one person, but I do think the more we discuss this, the better opportunity we're going to have to create and inspire the culture in which we can address these type matters. But Ken, I know that you're an expert in this, in personnel matters, and you've written about it, personal appraisals and so forth. You've been coined the word feed forward rather than feed back, which I totally endorse. But you are an advocate, I know, of real-time feed forward or real-time appraisals, so to speak, but I interpret that in part as open communication. I don't want to put words where you would not, but I'm very interested in your follow-on thoughts, Ken.
No, you're absolutely right. I wish I coined feed forward. I didn't, but I certainly put it into the last book that I wrote. Got to be honest, okay, and that's part of what this is. But you're absolutely right. When we talk about continuous feedback, it's not really being a helicopter, but rather it really means just what you're saying, Ron. Open, ongoing, honest, two-way communication, treating people with respect and trust, and truly listening to them, not waiting for them to stop talking so you can focus on your next point. Really listening and engaging and being observant. Very, very important to make sure you're not just checking in and looking at something, but you're rather more involved with the employees. Again, you're not hovering, but you're with them in the sense of, if not physically, at least psychologically, or even in terms of documentation. You know what's going on so that when you talk with them, you're informed, you're not just throwing stuff at them, and importantly, you're listening. You do care you do believe in them, you respect and trust them, and they need to sense that. Otherwise, we're going to have an environment where it is adversarial, and then you can get some of that resentment in there. And if you do see resentment, and sometimes it's quite observable, it's something to talk about, but not in the sense, hey, based on what I saw with your work, I think you resent. That's not going to do it. But rather to focus on the performance, focus on the behavior, and what can we do to help build and go from there. And it is okay for an employee not to perform extremely well. And that means they can come in with ideas that aren't that great. We want to hear them because the next idea could be terrific. So it is an environment where it's safe for them to express thoughts, views, and opinions. But with the caveat, this doesn't mean to come in with language and smears and horrible thoughts about people, anti-Semitic or otherwise, that are absolutely unacceptable. But that should be something that's just in the culture of our organization. If we're treating people with respect and trust, we're not going down that road at all.
I appreciate that, Ken. Ed, your testimony of, it seems, based on the article that you just pointed out, it seems you have overcome being a target of the past, or at least you've learned how to deal with that. Am I mischaracterizing anything?
Absolutely, you're right on. And it's just more open anti-Semitism for whatever the reason has surfaced like never before in this country, in my memory. And maybe it's just a passing fad, but it's a dangerous time.
Well, no, and I agree with you, Ed.
I just want to say that I think President Trump is doing a really good job on this thing.
Well, and I too applaud President Trump, and I'm not trying to make a political statement right now.
Neither am I.
There are some Democrats who may feel that they got to really reach deep to find anything good about President Trump. But as we speak right now, we've just in the last few days had a peace agreement between Israel and Hamas. How long that'll last, we don't know, but hostages have been released and we've got families reunited. So some of the animosity of the past has subsided. I have no reason to believe that there's still that we're at total peace with everyone. But my hope is we can at least attempt to be aware of some things that can cause disruptions, and we can work toward peace. I personally think Donald Trump is a great negotiator. And so my hope is this will last, the peace that we have just achieved. My hope is it'll be long term. But I do think it's going to require a lot of effort to overcome our hurt feelings of the past. And I think we can, but it's a matter of working toward what we would, I think of as the greater good of the global presence type thing. Let's try to work toward that. I'm being a bit philosophical and long-winded myself, but I can tell you that is my hope in discussing this topic right now. And my hope is that we can produce within our families, our workplaces, that psychologically safe workspace where we can openly discuss anything that's not going in the right direction. I just want to be certain I understood what I thought I heard you say. And if you did, in fact, mean to denigrate me, my hope is we can amicably resolve that rather than seeking revenge in a way that might want to terminate somebody, and that's my ultimate hope. But in closing, maybe any final thoughts you have, Ken, and then Ed.
It's interesting, just to go back to the peace agreement. From what I've been reading, it's interesting that rather than using a political or even a governmental kind of approach in getting to this resolution. This was done by, the articles are saying, 3 real estate developers. And they, as soon as Trump and his team heard, look, we'll give you back the hostages, but, and then it goes on. And one of the commentators I heard said, Trump stopped them at but and said, you give us back the hostages, done. We'll worry about the rest, like he's doing a real estate deal. And it worked. And there are 20 hostages home now. Hopefully the remains of the other hostages, I know some have been returned already, but this was not how politicians or government leaders typically would operate. They want the whole thing spelled out. And they said this was done out of that almost a real estate business-minded set. And it's something to think about. All the books about negotiating and coming to conclusions and solutions and all. This was interesting to read about it. And hopefully we, the world, can move forward in a way of peace, and that this will ultimately continue in that direction. We don't know, but at this point, this is a major change and a major situation that turned out to be very different from a lot of people expected and anticipated. So in that sense, there's a lot of positivity here.
Yep, I totally agree.
Ed,
Ed,
we have about 5 or 6 minutes remaining. I have to prepare for another call at the top of the hour. But Ken, I think I read the same things that you read.
Not surprising, Ed.
Yeah, just earlier today, as a matter of fact. Yeah, they made a deal. They're setting up, in my words, a mutual fund that across religion, across borders, across space. But the president of Egypt, president of Turkey is involved, and they were given key roles and a promise of sharing and economic growth opportunities for all of the leaders, the royalty, and the politicians who attended that peace meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt the other day. And I watched that YouTube. Fascinating, actually. And the way it was done and the trust that they showed on camera was great. And that was the deal. Now, the nitty gritty is, people within Hamas, not everybody apparently, but some people within Hamas are pretty violent and shooting Palestinians who don't go along with whatever the Hamas people are saying yesterday and the day before. And then the IDF, Israel forces, are getting in the middle of all that again. And so it's brittle and dangerous. But with the strength of all of these leaders seeing the bigger picture and buying into it, apparently, that's how the deal got structured. It's like a mutual fund.
Yep. And Ed, I'll close by offering to work with any people individually, businesses together, as we can create a psychologically safe environment, one in which people feel comfortable working with each other. We resolve matters to a greater good conclusion. I want to present the opportunity to work with you, and my contact information is right here. Ken, I appreciate the opportunity always to work with you, Ed, for this environment where we can share ideas together. My hope is we will inspire people to achieve the greater good with everyone.
It's my role as editor and producer of this talk show to circulate it around the world. I think it will be helpful to a lot of people.
I just want to thank both of you, Ed, for putting us together and for sharing your thoughts and experiences. And obviously, Ron, more excellent information. And just thank you so much for sharing it as well.
Yeah, Ron, you're the leader, not me.
Well, and I appreciate each one of you. And together we can achieve a lot. to inspire others to the greater good.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be well, guys.
God bless.